and thank you for joining us for another episode of A Focus on Careers. Today, we're talking with Shelby Woodgate, who's a leasing executive at Retail Projects. So a really booming market at the moment, booming industry, particularly here in Australia. Anything to do with property is of interest to everybody, whether you're buying, whether you're selling, or whether you're just saving up to get into it, or you're relocating a commercial business, etc. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Shelby to take us through what she does and how she finds it.
Thanks, George. Thanks. So yes, I am a leasing executive at Retail Projects. I have been there it's coming up on 18 months. So I was poached from another agency, and I'm at the job I'm at now. I really, really do enjoy. I look forward to every day because every day is different. That's probably one of the perks of property. It's not monotonous. It's not the same thing every day. You're dealing with different properties, different clients. You know, you get to see a wide range of different people's personalities. So it definitely keeps me on my toes.
All right. So Shelby, you finished school. Were you always interested in this type of industry or this area?
Yeah, I surprisingly I was. My dad has always been into property. He's been investing, buying, selling, developing small things since he was 18. So from a very young age, I had sort of a look into the industry. Wow. Yeah. So, you know, at 12 years old, Dad would take me to commercial inspections, and he would quiz me on things like, you know, what are outgoing, Shelby? What is your net lettable area? So I could sort of bang off these things very, very early on. So he definitely didn't push me, but I was guided and I really did enjoy it. So sort of around year 10, at William Clark, we did this test. It was kind of like a personality test to sort of see what you would be good at in your, you know, later on in your career. And
not the Morrisby, is it?
It was the Morrisby. I forgot what it was called. So we did that test, and of course, number one came out as real estate agent. Now that's a very open-ended job description because there's different types of real estate agents, different sectors of property you can go into. So I looked at it and I thought, oh, you know, that's probably bang on. Didn't want to do residential. For me, residential is just a bit too emotional. I'm definitely more commercial, very straightforward. Love concrete boxes, don't want to look at the color of the paint or the carpet. So yeah, it's definitely commercial is more my style. So it was really interesting to get the results back of that test because I already kind of knew, but that definitely helped guide me through into uni.
Wow. I mean, I love the point that you raised the emotional. So you've clearly thought that through, and you're quite right. You know, being a buyer or a seller in residential is emotionally driven, significant emotion, you know.
Yeah, it's an emotional purchase. For some people, they might only buy one property at a time, and it's their home. It's where they're going to raise their family. So people do look at it and they do scrutinize every little thing. Whereas commercial, you can sell something on the phone and it's a lot less work.
Yeah. Well, you've got to know what you're doing, though. I mean, that's absolutely. I think with residential, it is just my experience. You know, residential is the number of bedrooms, proximity to schools. You know, all these sorts of things. Does it have a pool? Is it a quiet street, etc. But when you're talking about commercial, you know, you may need to focus on proximity to transport, ease of, you know, transport, what's the zoning for the area, those types of things. So you're selling a little bit short. I think there's a lot more to it.
Look, I'm not going to lie. Having a degree in property economics is that's my foundation. So it was a really wide degree in terms of it covered every little bit of aspect of property in Australia. So having that foundation really helped. And you know, we have this ongoing joke at work that I'm sort of the most overqualified real estate agent because you really don't need that degree if you're happy to put in the work. But having that degree really does help give you the leg up especially if you're in a meeting or if you need to discuss something that, others might not have looked at or overlooked. It definitely helps.
That's brilliant. And where did you do your degree?
I did my degree at UTS, so University of Technology,
Technology.
Sydney.
Yeah,
So,
right.
yeah, it was a bit of a trek from the hills to the city, but I really, really enjoyed it.
It's a lovely campus as well.
It is, yeah.
There at Ultimo. Really, really nice. And it's not that bad. I mean, close to transport, Central Station, etc. But
yeah, it was
I digress.
When I started, we didn't have the metro, so I had to drive.
Oh, of course.
But now the kids will have the metro, so that's really good.
Right. That's certainly opened things up, particularly also Macquarie University, and which is on that metro line as well. That's fantastic. Yeah. More opportunities gives people a broader choice. So you've done the real estate economics, okay, and you've come out of the university and you've sort of eyed what you're doing now. What you're doing at the moment is leasing, yeah. So have you done selling and buying, or is it strictly lease?
So what happened was, when I finished my property degree, I kind of thought I wanted to go into commercial real estate. The beauty of property economics is you can do anything. You can be valuation. You're qualified to do property analysis, property management, portfolio management, development. There's a whole range of things you can do with that degree. I was tossing up between valuation and commercial real estate, and I ended up getting a good offer to go into a Norwest-based commercial real estate firm. So I was there for about a year, and I really did learn the basics of selling and leasing. So had a really, really good 12 months. Because it was a small firm, there was only about 10 of us. I was able to learn every aspect of selling and leasing, which you normally wouldn't get at a huge firm like, the Colliers or the Knight Franks. Not bashing them, but you don't get as much exposure.
Absolutely. You're put into a certain spot, and that's where you are. So
that's right. Yeah. So in that 12 months, I really did learn so much. And then from there, I was poached by my now boss to work at Retail Projects. So what I do at Retail Projects, a lot of people, it's a mouthful, but technically I'm a large format retail leasing executive. So what that means by, I know. So we just cut that out on the email signature because it's too long. So technically, when we say large format, what that means is, think of like an IKEA or a Bunnings box. That type of real estate is referred to in the industry as large format retail. So, if you're going to a homemaker center and you see a Pet Barn, a Amart Furniture, a J-Cup, all that type of shopping is large format retail. So my job is purely only to lease large boxes to these nationals. They're not all nationals, but we do deal with, the Amarts, the Pet Barns, the Bunnings, etc. of the world. So
Amazon?
It's a whole, sorry?
Amazon would have Amazon would have huge.
Huge boxes. I haven't dealt with them yet. But it is interesting because it's sort of like another league of it. It's still technically commercial real estate, but it's such a different world. We're dealing with these nationals at a head office level, and they might open 20 stores a year, and these are huge stores. So it's really interesting to see from the ground up. We literally will lease a patch of dirt, and then 12 months later, you'll see an Amart store. So it's really, really interesting.
Wow. Yeah. It's incredible the speed at which these places go up as well. So when you're saying they're opening up 20 stores, they really need to get moving. And so do you, in your role, do you, you're obviously matching buyer and seller, or so you've got to keep your mind open to where opportunities are for, they come to you and they say, look, we need to open up 20 across the footprint. And this is where we want to be: north, south, northwest, southwest, etc. And you sort of play on a map and find someone that you've got right. Interestingly, if I can, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, we do in an aspect kind of like almost play God, because they'll give us a network plan and we will then put them in the spots where we can place them.
Right.
There's a shortage in Sydney of appropriately zoned land for that type of use. So if they say I want to be in, if they say I want to be in the Hills District, well, they've got 2 places to choose from. So you can't be in, you know, such and such street. You've got to either go here or there, and we kind of put them where they can go. So yeah, we do definitely help nationals with their network rollout, because like I said, there's only so many places we can put them that are appropriately zoned.
Well, then that's an expertise that you and your firm bring to the table, right? Rather than they having to look around and move and check and look for. So you've already got that all lined out, and you give them an idea of exactly where that space is. That's excellent. I mean, that's a value add that you know, people look at it. Oh, what they find a place and that's it. But no, it's more than that. You look at the zoning. You look at potentially other competitors or complementary sort of people out there who they can open next to that complement their service, and it brings a certain demographic into there. But what I was asking is earlier you were talking about your degree and what it opened up for you. It's just in my mind when you talk about valuations, that you could work as a valuer for a bank, for example, in that sort of thing. So obviously, if someone's looking for a loan or someone's looking for a long-term lease funding, etc., they would need to get the underlying valuation for the property, and then you'd need someone. And I know there's been a lot of issues historically with poor valuations, and
that's right,
people are undervaluing or overvaluing, etc., and things going a little bit pear-shaped. So there's a big emphasis there, not just from a commercial perspective, but from a regulatory perspective.
Thank you. Yeah, I just thought, you know, give it a go. Like, I really didn't think I'd end up doing what I'm doing with large format, and I think I needed to have the valuation kick, have the commercial real estate foundation, and then be where I am today. And in 10 years time, I could change and do something completely different in property, or I could, do something completely different in my career. But, definitely first job out of uni, you're not locked in, not at all.
Yeah, and that's something that we're trying to emphasize to people out there, whether they're students going into uni, leaving uni, or people looking at a career change. It's not linear. It's not a straight line. There are opportunities, and we're talking about someone who's been interested in real estate, completed a degree at a very very highly acclaimed institution, and has now got so many different options to consider. I mean, you're not just sitting there doing leasing or valuation or whatever the case may be. There are a lot of opportunities out there for someone like you. So you're doing the leasing now, and then tell us a little bit about what would your average kind of day be? How would it look? Oh, you said it's not the same, but in general,
that's the thing. I'll give you an average day. Like, I'll give you a Monday. Normally we'll have like a leasing catch up, and we'll go through deals that are pending, deals that we need to finalize, terms that aren't yet agreed between 2 parties that we need to then try and put them together. From there, usually I'll do all my boring admin work, get that off my desk, and then usually I'll hit the ground running, and we'll just do our canvassing. So I work both for a landlord in some situations, and then also for a tenant in some situations, trying to find them a space. So I kind of work both angles. It just depends on the day and depends on the client. So there's a lot of tic-tacking. My normal day, I might jump on a call with a lawyer just to finalize a lease document. That's something I find really helpful, that my uni degree was able to give me that background of property law, because I am at least a couple of times a week on a call with the solicitor and the tenant trying to finalize a lease document. Because at the end of the day, we might have terms agreed, but getting a lease agreed is a whole nother story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little things that need to be tied up.
Yep. That's interesting. So you have a lot of human interaction then. So you've obviously got skills around dealing with people, a very diverse group of people. So you need to be able to manage that. Clearly, time management is important as well in your role. You're talking about what you do first. You clear off your desk, get rid of the admin, et cetera, because I'd imagine it's a very time sensitive business that you're in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely, because when we're driving to inspections or site inspections, we could be spending 2 hours a day in a car. So I need to make sure that when I'm at my desk, my time is used appropriately and efficiently, because, if we do have Zooms and inspections and meetings booked in, I've really got to use my time wisely at my desk.
Wow. Well, that's important, because you're giving absolute best value to your clients, whether they are tenants or landlords. So that's again speaks volumes of your your commitment to the role. So tell me a little bit about the industry. Is it what's the gender sort of split in there? I'm not looking at it from a gender diversity or gender equality. I'm just interested in how it goes, because in the residential it's pretty mixed bag, right?
Pretty mixed. In residential, I'd say it's probably 50-50 or close to it. With commercial, it's probably, and this is just how it is. It's probably 10 to 15% women, but we are seeing that slowly change. So there's times when I'll be in a meeting. This happens often, and I'm the only woman present. It's not a big deal. But would I like to see more women in the industry? Absolutely, because I do believe it gives you a leg up, because it's easier to remember, the only woman there, as opposed to, nine guys that are dressed the same. So it does help give you that little edge. You definitely are remembered. I think I get more calls off the signboard than the guys do, because it's just, people remember the girl's name. I don't know what it is, but I would really like to see more girls moving forward into commercial. In my degree at UTS, it was probably an 80-20 split between girls and boys. But I hear now from younger students going in that they're seeing that sort of increase every year. So if any girls are watching and they're thinking about it, 100%, I would seriously look at it, because it will give you a leg up, and we are starting to see that shift. And my boss, credit to him, he has hired all women, not purposely, but it just so happens that in interviews, the women are the best candidate, because on paper they've stood out to him. So
it's meritocracy based, clearly, females are bringing more to the table. That's the way it works in any industry. If you're interviewing, you're going to hire the right person for the job, the person that's going to commit and get the job done. So if male or female. But I think what's interesting here, talking to you about this, is that we've got to break down some of these stereotypes out there. You're thinking about, if you said real estate, residential, people, it's something anyone would like to get into, maybe male, female, it doesn't really matter. As soon as you start talking about commercial, people got this concept in their mind, perhaps, that it's all clunky and it's, hard hats and it's all these sorts of things. When in actual fact, if you look at the degree that you've completed, that's a degree. And again, on the degree, and it's not the only thing, it's you personally as well, but the degree itself is not limited to one aspect of property, right? And that's by talking to you and bringing that out there and sharing that with careers advisors and students, individuals that may click a light bulb moment and say, well, wow, that's actually quite interesting. For sure. And I don't like to generalize, but there's also that when you have a diverse group of people, you get a diverse view as well And I think that adds value to what the client gets at the end of the day.
That's
Diversity of thought, diversity of understanding, and of course, diversity of qualifications and background. I mean, once you put that, clearly your organization, you started off from the beginning saying that you have your regular your team meetings and everyone's talking in there. And if you're all, one way of thought, it's going to bring out a one-dimensional sort of
that's right.
output. But if you've got multiple, so that's great. That's quite interesting. So you cover all of Sydney, or do you have a specific remit? How does it work?
Because we're large format retail, it is a specialist type of property, and we cover all over New South Wales. We've even got some sites in Queensland, so we might actually have to travel interstate. I've done that on one occasion so far because we've been in lockdown, so we only have to do it once. But we will travel if we need to have meetings with national brands at their head office, which are often sometimes in Melbourne or Queensland. And then if we need to travel to visit sites, that's something that I'm able to do. But yeah, look, we're not just Sydney Hills District or Sydney Metro, it's all of New South Wales. And it is good in the sense where, because these brands are experienced and they sort of understand where the homemaker centres are located, we can just do a deal over the phone. We don't need to maybe organise a site inspection all the way up to, Tweed Head. They know the site, we know the site, we'll just call and do the deal over the phone, which is a good day. But I do like to travel, so it's a bit of 50-50.
Well, it's great. I mean, it's interesting, your overview there. Yeah, a lot of it can be done remotely, which leads me to the question of how the environmental factors out there, economics, etc., impact your sort of business. Now, from my perspective, looking at it, and my dad was in commercial property, and dragging us in the old days, looking through the Sydney Morning Herald for properties and leasing and what have you. And but it's, given the fact that it's a scarce resource, it's not an infinite resource. The right footprints. In good times and in not so good times, I think that the market is still driven for that. People are always looking for opportunity. Has the recent crisis had an impact on the industry from your perspective?
Well, it's interesting because some businesses did do extremely well and others did not. So in large format retail, we saw certain brands were up 100% on their previous year. So certain types of, think like home renovation. So Bunnings, Mitre 10, anything that sold product that they could continue to be open during COVID, they did quite well because everyone was at home. Everyone wanted to do, upgrade their backyard fence or their entertainment area. So we did see those businesses do quite well. First pandemic, furniture, electrical, larger goods did really well. Again, some of them were up 100% on the previous year. This second lockdown, we didn't see that spike in spending because we had a much longer lockdown. So they weren't able
possibly
to
there wasn't JobKeeper.
Correct, yeah. So
we're
seeing that kind of knock-on effect from JobKeeper. But it'll be interesting now that they've been open for 2 weeks, when they report their numbers, which I haven't seen yet. It'll be interesting to see what their spend is. But yeah, look, some did really well, some didn't. From my perspective, first lockdown, we were so uncertain about it. I didn't know what was going to happen. But surprisingly, after about 2 weeks, we were just back to normal. So we were fine. We were still working from home, but we were doing deals as per normal. I wouldn't say we made money or lost money. I think it was just a normal year. This second lockdown, I would say the exact same thing. The experienced operators knew that there was an end goal of this pandemic and we would eventually get a lockdown. So they didn't change their want to find new stores, because they knew, look, we're looking at greenfield sites that are now 18 months away. In 18 months, we will then be vaccinated and be able to travel. So for them, they kind of weren't really affected. So I found it was pretty normal. Right.
That's interesting. That's a very interesting perspective, because you're right. And again, that's the difference between the successful organizations and the less successful ones, the ones that can see beyond beyond the here and now, and can look at it and
Yeah.
say, yeah, I get this. You know, we see an end to this, and so forth. So what would you say would be one of the, I mean, obviously meeting all these people, travel, all the rest of it, great experience, etc. What would you sort of, one of the drawbacks, not of your current role, but of you know, working in this industry, if there are any?
Yeah. Okay. It's an interesting question. I'll give you an overall answer for property. Probably a drawback would be if you're in any type of real estate, residential, commercial, leasing, whatever, there's going to be a lot of times you're told no, and it can be very, very up and down emotionally. And I've had to develop a very thick skin, and sometimes you need to remember that it's not personal. This is a business-driven decision that this is, you know, that has happened. So you don't need to be thick-skinned to go into property, but you do need to understand that there are ups and downs, very high highs, and sometimes you can have low days where you just feel like, you know, you've got nothing done, or, you know, this property's never going to get leased, or this thing's never going to get sold. And then the next day you could do 3 deals and it's happy days. So it's very much a roller coaster, and you kind of need to understand that not every day is going to be bad, not every day is going to be good. Look at it overall and just kind of understand that that's what you're going into, and just kind of be prepared for it, I guess. And I kind of was prepared, but it's still kind of, I needed to kind of rethink and, you know, look at, you know, am I taking this too personally when someone tells me no 10 times in a row? Yes, yes, I am.
It's interesting because I spoke with a gentleman from actually the one of the assistants to the Lord Mayor in South Australia, Ben, on a previous session, and that was his advice. I mean, you know, picking yourself up and not taking things personally, and absolutely. And I think resilience is an important factor, and sadly we're seeing a lot of resilience being withered away these days. I think there's nothing like it. If you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, learn from the experience, and as you said, I think I loved what you said, don't take it personally. It's not personal, it's commercial, it's business. That's the way life is, right? You move on, and there's a better day tomorrow, or the next day. Quite interesting. And what would be, I mean, is it a young person's game, or clearly you've got the experienced people who've been there for a while, and you know, there's no substitute for experience and industry knowledge, but you said you were seeing some young people coming in, some more.
I mean, it's really a mixing pot of age. I mean, I'm probably the youngest by about 10 years at my work, but I work at a small firm. So, I mean, if you were at like Collier's or you know, Knight Frank, you'd be starting off with people similar age to you. So going in, typically if you're going into a larger organization, you'd be at a graduate position. Everyone would be the same age. Everyone would be out of or fresh out of uni. So me personally, I do find I am on the younger spectrum when I'm in, you know, meetings dealing with clients, but I hide it pretty well, so people don't really know. People don't know I'm only 25.
Oh, good on you. Good on you. That's a great attitude to have. So what do you see the trajectories? I mean, obviously you're only, you know, 18 months in this role, or was 18 months, right? So you're comfortable doing what you're doing, but obviously in the back of your mind, you keep your mind open, right? Because the world's a changing place. Opportunities come invariably out of the blue. You don't really expect them, and you grab them. So do you have a long-term sort of projection of where you think you'd be, or where you think you'd like to be?
Yeah, look, I really like where I am. I think maybe, you know, in 10 years' time, would I look at opening up my own commercial real estate business? Absolutely. I would need to sort of reassess where I am in 10 years' time. But I want to definitely have more experience under my belt, and just do a bit more of everything. So, you know, maybe have some experience managing some other other staff, and yeah, definitely reassess where I'm at in, say, 10 years or so.
Yeah, that management aspect of it. I mean, it's great to be able to manage your own time, and obviously you've got the maturity and the discipline to do that, and you're doing that. But when you become responsible for managing other people's time and other people's priorities, it gets a little hairy there. And then take that a step further when it's actually your money. Your business,
changes the whole thing.
Right? It changes the whole dynamic. So I can tell you, running my own business, I really look at it and I think, do I really need to print those, or do I really need to do? Because it's real money. It's your
it becomes
your
real when it's your money.
Yeah, absolutely. And you become a lot more disciplined as well from a time perspective. That's fantastic. And do you have? Will you have the opportunity in your existing role to manage people down the track?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think in the coming year or next year or so, my director wants to maybe hire some juniors or some graduates, because we are getting more and more stock in the portfolio where it will at some point be unmanageable for one person, being myself.
Right.
So I have a girl who helps me with my admin. She's really good, but we kind of do need to grow down the team. So I definitely see that happening.
And do you work, I know the larger firms have the opportunity you were mentioning earlier. Do you do internships as well, or that's...
We don't currently. We've had some realist, what are they called? Some work experience kids want to come through, but we couldn't because of COVID, so that got postponed. But at the moment we don't look at that, but that might be something that we should take a second look at.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, I'm in my brain, I'm thinking I've got to get you to talk to Anthony. He did his work experience in real estate, and he really loves the idea, the whole concept, and it's interesting. I mean, it's not something that I've, like yourself with your dad, etc. It's one of those things. He did the Moresby, and that was the sort of area that he was interested in. So, I mean, your enthusiasm, your passion for the role, you're obviously a driven young woman who will be absolutely successful in everything and anything. And as an absolute out on the table, I know Shelby. I've known her for a while through the school, and you've always shown to be a very responsible individual. So I'm very happy to see you on this trajectory. I wish you all the very best. I thank you again for your valuable time. I know you're very busy and you've given up this time to help others, and that's a great community contribution there. So if anybody out there has got any questions for Shelby on this industry or the role or her studies, etc., drop us a line and we'll get it to Shelby and we'll get back to you. And please, as always, subscribe to this channel. And if you know anyone, if you yourself or anyone out there has an interesting career they'd like to share and help others to grow, then please drop us a line as well. So Shelby, thank you very much for your time. And truly appreciate it. Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks.